Good morning, third grade. Our targets for today are: I can identify multiplication and division story problem types, and I can identify what operation to use to solve a multiplication or division story problem. So let's start by reviewing the vocabulary we know. We know that the product is the total amount. It's the answer to a multiplication problem. We also know that factors are one of the numbers you multiply to get the product. We know when we're thinking about division equations that the dividend is the total amount in a division problem. It is the product of a multiplication equation. The divisor is the amount you're dividing by. It's the known factor in a multiplication problem. The quotient is the answer to a division equation, and it is the unknown factor of a multiplication problem. So, multiplication and division are inverse operations. They're operations that undo each other. Any multiplication equation can be thought about as a division equation, and any division equation could be thought about as a multiplication equation. So, for example, if we know that 5 times 3 equals 15, 5 and 3 are factors. They're the numbers we're multiplying, and 15 is the product. It's the total amount, or the answer. We could take that same multiplication equation, 5 times 3 equals 15, and think about it as a division equation. 15, the product, would become the dividend because it's the total amount. And we would divide it by one of the two factors, either 5 or 3. We'll divide it by 5. 15 divided by 5 would equal 3 because it equals the other factor. So 15 divided by 5 equals 3. We also have learned about 4 different multiplication and 4 different subtraction. We've also learned about 4 different multiplication and 4 different division story problem types. Just like how multiplication and division are extremely similar, multiplication story problem types and division story problem types are extremely similar as well. In fact, the only difference between a multiplication and division story problem type is what information you know and what information you don't know. An area problem is a word problem that represents the amount of space covering the square units of a rectangular shape. An array problem is a word problem where a total amount of physical items are arranged into rows and columns. An equal-sized group word problem is a problem where physical items are shared among equal-sized groups or containers. There are the same number of items in each container. A repeated addition or repeated subtraction problem is a problem where an action repeats itself again and again and again, causing the same amount to be added or subtracted, often over time. So let's go ahead and think about what we just talked about. Let's think about those different problem types. Give me just a second here. So I have 8 story problems up here, and we're going to look at each problem, and we're going to decide if each problem is an area problem, where you have a rectangular object with a length and a width and total square units covered, if it's an array problem with physical items arranged in rows or columns, if it's an equal-sized group problem where physical items are arranged in groups or containers, or if it's a repeated addition or subtraction problem where an action is happening repeatedly again and again over time. So we're going to start by just identifying the problem type. Right now, we're not going to worry about if it's multiplication or division. We'll start by just identifying the problem type. Let's look at the first problem together. Elijah's backyard is 7 yards long and 6 yards wide. How much total space does he have in his backyard? I notice right away that this problem has a length 7 yards long and a width 7 yards wide. And we're trying to find the total space of his backyard. Well, clearly his backyard's a rectangle if it's got a length and a width. And if I'm looking for how much space there is, I know that's really asking me what the area is. So I can tell right away this is an area story problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at this next one. Caitlin made earrings for 4 hours and then made the same amount each hour. If she made 24 pairs of earrings total, how many pairs of earrings did she make each hour? Ooh. In this problem, I'm hearing an action that's happening. Caitlin's making earrings, and she's making the same number of earrings each hour. So I hear that there's an action that's happening repeatedly the same way, making pairs of earrings. I also know that this is happening over time. She's doing it every hour. So I can tell that this is either repeated addition or repeated subtraction because there's a repeated action that's happening again and again. Let's take a look at this next problem. There are 28 monkeys in the zoo and 4 cages. How many monkeys are in each cage? Of course, we're assuming there's the same number in each cage. Ooh, in this problem, there are physical items, monkeys, that are arranged into cages, which are a kind of container. This is clearly an equal-sized group story problem. What about this next problem? Tony arranged his marble collection in rows of 8. If he had 56 marbles total, how many will be in each row? Right away, my ear is hearing that word rows. So I know if I'm putting physical items like marbles into rows with the same number in every row, it's clearly an array problem. Now, third grade, you're going to determine the problem type for these last 4 problems. I'll read it and you decide if it's an area problem, an array problem, an equal-sized group problem, or a repeated addition or subtraction problem. Mrs. Jones picks 3 flowers a day for 5 days. How many flowers did she end up with after 5 days? What kind of story problem is that? Ooh, I agree. Since Mrs. Jones is repeating an action again and again, picking flowers each day, that is a repeated addition or repeated subtraction problem. What about this next problem? Dallas's shoes are arranged neatly into rows in his closet. If there are 8 shoes per row and 4 rows total, how many total shoes does Dallas have in his closet? What kind of story problem is that? Ooh, I agree. Immediately, I heard that the shoes were in rows. And since there are the same number in each row, I know this is an array story problem. Look at this next problem. In each box, there are 6 eggs. How many in 6 boxes of eggs? What kind of problem is this? Oh, yes. Eggs are clearly a physical item, and they're arranged into containers. So that is an equal-sized group story problem. Take a look at this last one. Mrs. Glassey's den is 72 total square feet. If it is 9 feet long, how wide is Miss Glassey's den? What kind of story problem is this? I respectfully agree. Since we know the total square feet, which we know is the area of something, and we're trying to find how wide it is, this is clearly an area story problem. Awesome job identifying these problem types with me. Now, third grade, let's think about what we know about the difference between a multiplication equation. Now, third grade, let's take a moment and think about what we know about the difference between a multiplication problem and a division problem. If the total is unknown, you have to multiply to solve the problem. So if the question is asking you to find the total, whether it's the total area or the total number of physical items or the total repeated action, it is a multiplication problem. You have to multiply to solve it. If you know the total amount, you have to divide to solve the problem. So if the total amount is known, whether it's the total area, the total number of physical items, the total repeated action, if the total amount is known in a problem, then you have to divide to find the unknown information. That's how you'll know the difference between a multiplication and a division story problem. If it's an array problem or an area problem or equal-sized group problem or repeated addition or subtraction, you'll be able to tell the difference between a multiplication problem and a division problem. Because if you do not know the total, you have to multiply to find it. If you do know the total, you're going to divide the total by the other piece of information you know to find the missing information. So third grade, let's take a look at those same problems, and you can see I've color-coded them. Red is area, orange is repeated addition and subtraction, green is equal-sized group, and blue is array. We're going to go ahead and look at these story problems, and we're going to decide for each one if it's a multiplication problem or a division problem. Remember, we're going to be able to tell because if it's a multiplication problem, the question's going to ask us to find the total. The total amount will be unknown. However, if it's a division equation, we will know the total amount, and we'll be trying to find one of the other pieces of information. So we'll do a couple together, and then it will be your turn to do some on your own. Elijah's backyard is 7 yards long and 6 yards wide. So how much total space does he have in his backyard? I'm looking specifically at that question. How much total space does he have in his backyard? It's asking me to find the total space, which is the total area. Since I do not know the total, that's what I'm trying to find. This is a multiplication area problem. I would multiply to find the answer. Take a look at the next problem. Caitlin made earrings for 4 hours, and she made the same amount each hour. If she made 24 pairs of earrings total, how many pairs of earrings did she make each hour? In this repeated addition or subtraction problem, I can see that the question's asking me how many pairs of earrings did she make each hour. That is not the total amount. The total amount of earrings she made is 24 earrings total. I know that that's the total because it says total. Since I know the total amount, and what I do not know is how many she made each hour, this is a division problem. I would divide 24 pairs of earrings total by 4 hours to find out how many pairs of earrings she made each hour. Let's take a look at the next problem. This is one of those equal-sized group problems. There are 28 monkeys in a zoo and 4 cages. How many monkeys are in each cage? I can see that the question's asking me how many monkeys are in each cage, but that's not the total number of monkeys. In fact, I know the total number of monkeys is 28 monkeys, and I'm going to divide them between 4 cages. Since I know the total amount, 28, this is a division equation. This is a division equal-sized group problem. Take a look at the next problem. Tony arranged his marble collection in rows of 8. If he had 56 marbles total, how many are in each row? I'm noticing that the question's asking how many are in each row, and that I actually know the total number of marbles because it says 56 marbles total. Since I know the total amount, I'm going to have to divide to find how many are in each row. This is a division equation, or this is a division story problem. Now, 3rd grade, you're going to do these last 4 independently. Mrs. Jones picked 3 flowers a day for 5 days. How many flowers did she end up with after 5 days? Think about the information we know and what we don't. Would we multiply or divide to solve this problem? I agree. This is a multiplication equation. It's a repeated addition multiplication equation. So we would multiply to find it. Go ahead and look at this next question. Dallas's shoes are arranged neatly into rows in his closet. If there are 8 shoes per row and 4 rows total, how many shoes does Dallas have in his closet? Is this a multiplication or a division problem? I respectfully agree. Since we do not know how many total shoes he has, that's what we're trying to find, we would multiply to solve this problem. This is a multiplication array story problem. What about this equal-sized group problem here? In each box there are 6 eggs. How many eggs are in 6 boxes of eggs? Well, in this problem, it sounds like, what kind of problem is this? I agree. This is a multiplication equal-sized group problem because we don't know the total number of eggs. That's what we're trying to find out. What about this last problem? Miss Glassie's den is 72 total square feet. If it's 9 feet long, how wide is Miss Glassie's den? Is this a multiplication or division problem? I agree. Since we know the total area and we're trying to find how wide it is, this is a division problem. We would divide to find the answer. Thank you for learning about multiplication and division story problems with me today, 3rd grade. Have a great day!